Hello everyone, welcome back to OptimizEvony. It is Friday, in time for the normal event update video, but instead of that, I am going to do a different video today. So one of the things that Evony has announced with this, with this update is, yeah, sure, they've done some optimizations, cool. Maybe it'll make things a little bit better, but uh, what really disappoints me is this message. So for those that haven't actually read through it, basically what it's telling you is that when defending your city, so when you're taking rallies, solos, whatnot, the defender only scores 70% of the original scores that they would have scored. So this means that attacking, so all of the attackers, everyone in the rally, and reinforcements all get full scores, but the only person who doesn't get full scores is likely the person that's hit the hardest in All Stars, which is the person actually taking the rally. And I know that this is in response to some of the petitions and things like that that were happening after last All Stars. There were a couple of there was a number of the top players that were unhappy with the way that All Stars had started to progress, where people were kind of mid-range power people were continually healing. That they were kind of screwing over their team in terms of points. They were just, they were losing a lot of points, going negative on all of their defenses. But they were continuing to advance, and they were able to do really well in advancing and even to finals if they had enough speed ups. Um, so after last All Stars, there was a petition that kind of went through the ranks that was essentially, hey, like, defense should score less than offense. And lo and behold, what did Evany do? Defense is now worth less than offense and reinforcing, but I think the majority of your points are probably not going to come from reinforcing. The majority of your points now are, and even before, were probably going to come from attacking. Um, but yeah, so let's talk a little bit about why I think this is actually a really bad thing for the game. Um, I think I've talked in a number of videos on how uh, all stars and the keeps and stuff like that have kind of pushed to an extreme level where really to become competitive for things like the Elder Dragon souls, you need to be obviously you need to have really good buffs. Most people in All Stars have really good buffs. That's kind of a given. Most people in All Stars are pretty good players. Not all, but most people, in All Stars are pretty good players. And of course, there's all skill ranges. There's people who have worse buffs that do tend to do better in All Stars than people who have better buffs, and they're maybe not as good of a player. That's what I would like the game to be a little bit more of. Actually, is for your skill at the game to actually matter more than what how much you've coined essentially. I know that's unrealistic, but that would be the dream scenario. So uh, what I think is kind of wrong with All Stars is if you look at All Stars now, and particularly in comparison to previous versions, you're seeing like quite a few 100 billion plus keeps, which of course this is a what would this is a natural progression of the game, right? You're good, particularly people who have the buffs to support it are going to continue to build power because then they don't have to heal as much and things like that. um, However, particularly if you're in a good alliance, right? Like if you're in a top alliance, there's really no reason not to build troops, other than you yourself might go negative. But like typically, if you're in a top alliance, your alliance is winning most battlefields, and that additional power on offense will become a much better thing than any losings that you would have on defense. And even so, like more power, you're gonna have a little bit more survivability with that. So yeah, again, if you just count all of the 100 billion plus keeps, I mean it's starting to be a ton of keeps, right? Which is not a bad thing, and that's like I said, it's a natural progression of the game. These are people that have finished K45, they've unlocked all of their troop buildings, they really have nothing else to build other than troops at this point, and their buffs are to a point where they can actually sustain it. Um, However, All Stars was one place where there was a little bit of an even playing ground, right? Because someone who's 166 billion is likely not going to get hit versus someone who's, I don't know, let's just say like someone who's 37 billion or 33 billion. Um, you know, I know Grey Wolf. He's got a really solid account at 33 billion. It's going to take a number of hits to zero him. He's going to heal and likely go positive on all of those hits. Um, that is where the power discrepancy actually benefited lower power players sometimes because they were the people who were getting targeted. They had more control if they had healing speeds on how many points they scored. Of course, I 100% agree that there was a problem before, right? That there were people who would continuously take rallies, go negative, and heal. And that's what they did because this is they really needed to get to the next level. Um, and honestly, I don't begrudge some people that do that. Like particularly if you're trying to unlock your first dragon egg or things like that. Yes, you shouldn't do it in a way that you know sets your team back, especially because if your team does really well, you also do really well. If your team places first, all but the lower five people on the team are going to advance to the next level. Um, but so this is really what this has done is really it's made all stars a lot easier for these higher power players because they're going to have more troops to join rallies with, while they might still take rallies. And honestly, if they take rallies, they're probably getting most of the points because they might not call for reigns, because they can take rallies without reigns and still go relatively even, and then they get all of the points from it. And it's unlikely that it's less likely that they actually get rallied. So yeah, but these guys used to get rallied a lot. I mean, All Stars is tomorrow, so this is the very last minute that they're kind of dropping this, and so people's strategies are going to have to change. How they're going to try and advance. I am always of the plan like if my team does well, I'm going to do well. My team typically does not do very well. I try to I hope that that's not a reflection on my play. I think in general I try to be a pretty positive member of the team, and not take a bunch of really negative defenses. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but in general I try not to. I think there were a couple times where I had some bad defenses last All Stars, and I felt really bad about it. But yeah, whatever. Defending is part of the game, but honestly, I don't really see a point to sitting for rallies unless you're just stacked with reigns, because you're gonna take the brunt of the attack, right? Like people who are reigning you, it's the only thing that they're going to lose is that single march, which is pretty easy to heal to replace. Um, you potentially could lose, 10, 20 billion in a single hit, depending on your buffs. And because I mean, these rallies are going to be 120 million plus. I think there's a few that are 130 million, maybe with some of the rally halls and things like that. I mean, Evany's been handing out, I mean, not handing out rally cap, but they've been adding rally cap for people who are willing to pay for it. Is a better way to say it. So yeah, honestly, I see this as a pretty negative thing for those that are not like the top 0.001% that are, 150 billion, have 6K, 7K buffs and are going to be just attacking the whole time. Most of those people are going to make it anyways. The only way that people, honestly of my size, and I mean, I'm not small, right? Like I'm like 40 billion. So for most people in Evony, I'm a massive keep, but in All Stars, I'm bottom five on my team. Um, and so my not strategy. I don't ever try to get hit unless I know that I have good reins and stuff like that. But I mean, a strategy is to take rallies when you're a smaller player. You have less to lose. You can heal a little bit more easily, things like that. This to me just kind of completely gets rid of that. It doesn't completely get rid of it, but it makes it a lot less beneficial, particularly because everyone else is getting more points than you. So even though you're theoretically killing a higher number of troops than anyone else in the rally or on the reinforcement side, you're only getting 70%, and so the pain the pain to gain ratio is not going to be very good for you. So I mean, I'm most likely not going to try and take any rallies until at least the second half of All Stars. That's kind of my goal, anyways, to wait until people's rallies are a little bit weaker, um, so that you still get points, but you're not just like getting wrecked. But yeah, this is again, Evany is listening to the wrong people, unfortunately, and I think this is the same way that they tried to solve point trading in battlefields by only having 60% of your scores count if you lose. And what did that do? Honestly, it actually made point trading way worse in battlefields, and it also made it so that battlefields are way more boring. Because before that, like, yeah, you want to win, but like, you also want to get points. And now what I've found is that people just like kind of sit in a stalemate. No one really wants to attack each other, because winning is so much more important than like scoring a ton of points. Because even if you score 100K points, that's only 60K once you've taken out the deduction. So uh, really not a huge fan of this. Let me know what you guys think. I really don't like that they did this right before Battlefield as well. I'm assuming they're doing that so that people don't have the chance to figure out a way to work around it and figure out how to use it to their advantage. But yeah, I don't know. I really not a big fan of this. I think it again makes it even harder for those that are that make all stars but don't consistently make it to the final round for them to get like elder dragon souls and things like that. So but yeah, let me know what you guys think. I'm sure for a lot of you guys this is not really relevant if you're not going to all stars, but think about it a little bit more in terms of the precedent that it sets, in that, like, oh, the people who spend more money tend to attack more, and the people who spend less money, have to figure out ways to defend and go positive and things like that. Um, and now they're just getting less points. So, I mean, imagine if they did this in SVS. Like, T1 traps would score a lot less points. And honestly, that's the only viable way for some people to play. So again, not a huge fan of this this change, but let me know what you guys think. Good luck to all those in All Stars. I will actually be streaming, so look for the live stream link. It should be going out in the normal Evony mail. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.